Get in here!
Greetings.
Hello.
Greet.
My greetings. Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 156 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. From the Maelstrom, Louisiana, I'm Appa. From Gadsden, New York, it's Ridiculous Hat. How you doing, Hap?
I am great. Just great. It's Tuesday. Feels weird. I keep wanting to do Wednesday stuff, and then it's like, it's not Wednesday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, we can't talk about the Tavern Brawl this week. Unfortunate.
I think that last week's story is enough Tavern Brawl experience to tide us over for a little while.
We can't run back the sequential Scorpomatic Taunt Priest.
There are very few things about that experience that can be effectively replicated. It's just kind of a moment in time that we'll always have together. Or at least me and that guy. And by extension, you guys.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about if it's possible to make an Aldor Peacekeeper Scorpomatic Control Paladin deck today.
That's exactly what my thought was.
I see that our relationship with Hearthstone has changed in the past few weeks. And what about in Wild, you can Edric the Pure? Or maybe...
Hat's playing 3D chess right now.
Maybe we can Shrink Ray it, and the turn after we can go Glinda and double Scorpomatic. If we somehow get a Warlock card in our Paladin deck. Let's move on.
Well, as I'm sure everyone's heard...
How? I don't... Oh.
Don't think about that too much. It'll hurt your head. You'll get nightmares.
Oh, there's all heard. That's Bottidictus.
There's a bug fix later that talks about Prophet Velen and unexpected results.
The pun there is too obvious for me to even make it. It's too obvious. You're all waiting for me to make it. You're all waiting for me to make the pun. I can see it. I'm
trying to introduce Bottidictus. I'm getting run over.
We never actually get to that. Hat always starts talking and then says something I have to respond to, and then, well, I choose to respond to.
Thank you.
We get into it, and then, and yeah, it's me, Karazang, California. Hi.
You did my job for me. Awesome. All right, let's just get into it. We got a good bit to talk about. So, Concede is supported in large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head on over to patreon.com/CoinConcede. Thanks to Gritty Reboot for being our newest patron. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I love seeing new patrons from week to week. So hope to catch you in the patron Discord channel.
I also like Gritty Reboots, except for the Spider-Man one, the Amazing Spider-Man. Not great, but in general, I do enjoy a good Gritty Reboot.
And didn't we have some news about Patreon?
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. Patreon has updated their terms and conditions. No more raffles are to be included, so we normally do a raffle for all patrons $5 and higher. We're working out on what to do with that reward tier. We will still do the raffle this month, and we will announce last month's winners on the bonus episode that I am way behind in editing, but that'll be out this week as well. And it was recorded before In the Works, but I think it's still applicable. But also, I was going to edit it, and then the In the Works announcement came out that night, and I was like, I'm going to sit for a while and not do Hearthstone stuff. So, you all understand. You're very understanding. I appreciate that. So, the bonus episode will be out this week. And then the raffle will still happen this month. And then after that, we're going to figure out a different reward as possible to be there.
Yeah, just wanted to plug that right there, get that out of the way. So, sorry for people who look forward to the raffles, but Patreon says we don't like that anymore, so you can't do them. And that goes like website wide. So we'll figure out something else. So how was y'all's last week on ladder, in life, in WoW, in general?
Mine's actually been pretty good. So I did not play a lot towards the end of the season because I was getting very frustrated. Every time I logged in, it felt like I was losing more than I was winning. And so I ended up not hitting Legend for the first time since I came back to the game, pretty much. Which was a little depressing, but started off the month pretty strong. I ended up I wanted to try Asmo's deck, but last week Appa and Hat basically kind of told me the deck was not very good, and I believed them foolishly. And then started this month rank 8 full stars and went straight to rank 5. I'm 7-1 with the deck. Deck is amazing. You guys are wrong. And,
Okay, hold on. You being good and the deck overall performing poorly can both be true. This will translate very well to our Decksplanations segment that's on the other side of a wall of tournament results. But you being successful...
I don't remember ever saying it was bad, also.
I just don't like the implication that believing us is foolish.
Look. I remember, I went back, listened to the podcast. I said I was beating it with Even Warlock in the 3 games that I played. I won 2 of them. And I distinctly remember saying I got lucky.
I think it was before the podcast. Or okay, you guys didn't technically say it was bad. You said it was performing poorly. That was the gist of the conversation I got, was that it was performing poorly, and therefore my brain was like, okay, deck is bad, and then I played the deck, and the deck is good.
I feel like
relatively good. I have been outplaying my opponents a little bit.
I feel like old Appa would have said deck's garbage, don't play. But I feel like new Appa, deck is performing poorly is definitely something I would say. So I'll believe you on that one.
I would say that your opponent's skill at rank 8 is misaligned with your skill.
That is fair. But when I was playing at the end of last month, which I was doing and losing a lot, I feel like the decks I was playing were good decks and I was still losing. So this deck, I'm winning even despite playing against obviously very similar skilled players, right?
We should have saved this until right before Decksplanations.
Probably. I'll have more to add when we get to Decksplanations, because I'm excited to talk about it this week. But that's where I'm at. I really enjoy the deck. Although I will say I've been high rolling a bit. I've been getting a lot of anti-magic shells and then going Spellstone into anti-magic shell because I get a Radiant Elemental off it, and it's pretty broken.
Are your magic shells chocolatey, delicious ice cream topping goodness?
Yes.
That's what I think of every single time I get an anti-magic shell. I think of the delicious treat from my childhood. If you don't know what magic shell is, it is a little syrup that you put on top of ice cream, and it hardens into this little shell, and it's delicious bits of chocolate. Anyways, a little off topic. I ended the season, I think, at rank 815 Legend. I played Odd Rogue for a bit on the last day, but I had some success, but whenever I was losing, it felt really bad, and whenever I was winning, it didn't feel too rewarding. So we went to get food in the middle of the day, and just on the car ride to get food, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play what I enjoy, and I'm just gonna do that. And so I just played Even Shaman, and I went from 5k Legend to top 1000 with Keening, Banshee, Even Shaman. Because, all right, look. Okay.
Excuse me. Well, just one more time for the listeners. I know this song, but I'm not sure I know the dance.
Keening, Banshee, Even Shaman. All right, look.
You and Hat with the just nonsense Even Shaman decks.
Okay, hold on. First of all, do not compare me or my family to Keening Banshee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bright-Eyed Scout.
Okay,
Even Shaman
I did not
so
make that deck.
much better than Keening Banshee.
I am not here
trying to sell it to me.
I am not here to compare relative performance of Shaman decks, because apparently Bottidictus just slots things into good or bad, and then when he wins, calls us foolish, which I'm still not over. I'm not over it. And second of all, the Bright-Eyed Scout list was a top Legend performing deck at the time, and also, big stuff is good. And then Appa said the same thing, except what if that big thing cost 4 mana, and then went to the dome for 5? And I'm curious to see what he has to say. I'm curious.
Okay, so I was playing a little bit of Even Shaman, and I was playing with just like a regular elemental build, and I wasn't happy with the curve of the deck because in some matchups that I was playing, you needed to curve as opposed to wait and play big stuff more. Most specifically, Odd Rogue. I was playing against a good bit of Odd Rogue, which is generally not a great matchup for Even Shaman because their weapon's very good against a lot of your minions, and whenever you're taking the mid game off and trying to curve into 6-drops and giants and stuff, then Vile Spine Slayer gets real good. So I basically took out a few cards and went through the collection, and the deck was lacking at the 4-drop slot. And all right, I've played Chillwind Yeti before in Even Shaman on purpose. So I looked at Yeti and I was like, not doing that again. I'm not that desperate. But I remembered playing against Amnesiac in I think it was a WESG qualifier, or maybe it was a Copa qualifier, like 6 months ago or something. And he was playing Keening Banshee in, I believe, his Spiteful Priest deck. And I mean, it was good for what he wanted to do. It was a solid mid-game minion, and it contested the board really well. So I tried it out in Even Shaman, and it was actually really great. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. Against the aggressive matchups, it dominated the board, and I didn't care about the drawback at all. And against the control decks, I just played it and went face for 5. I was like, okay, 5 you, just not playing things. Just going to hit you over and over again until you kill this. And then against Druid, it has this hidden ability of breaking Spreading Plague tokens, which was really nice. And it can get clunky with the Fell Reaver effect, where you mill the top 3 when you play a card, but a lot of the time that's not very relevant. So I was actually really surprised with how well Keening Banshee performed in the deck in my list. So I hit top 1000 with that. I stopped at 815 at like 930. I probably could have climbed more. I was having really nice results with the deck, and it felt really good. But I didn't want to deal with the stress of trying to get a top 500 finish, because if I played more, that's what I'd be shooting for. And I had to get up for school the next day at like 10. So I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. So that was kind of the theory behind the Keening Banshee. And against Odd Rogue, a 5/5 breaks all their 3-drops. So it helped that matchup a lot. Like, not single-handedly, but it was a big contributing factor, I think, to how well I was doing against Odd Rogue. Plus, I was playing double oozes, so.
Plus, it keeps up with Henge Clan, right? It
Yeah,
comes down
it
the
just- it
turn that you can
trades-
still trade with Henge Clan.
It trades 1-for-1 for Henge Clan. It eats fledglings, and it just does a lot of stuff. I mean, it
Heart
looks wonky
creepers.
because it's a meme of a card most of the time, but I mean, it's a 4-mana 5/5 in just a deck that can curve sometimes. So I don't know. That was kind of my thinking, and it
Well,
did pretty
it's
well.
a 4-mana 5/5 in every deck, Appa.
Look, man.
It's except for Quest Rogue. If you complete the rewards, it's a 4-mana 4/4.
You got us.
So how was your week, Hat?
Better now that I was technically correct about a completely useless thing, which is kind of my jam. The week is pretty good in Hearthstone. I reset back to rank 7. I also did not hit Legend. It's not the first time in a while. I took 2 months off, for those that may remember, when Corridor Creeper was a 0-mana 5/5, which is better than a 4-mana 5/5. And the drawback was, instead of you mill 3 cards whenever you play a spell, is your opponent might have one and then you lose. That was the biggest downside to the card. So that was the last time I took time off Hearthstone. I don't foresee Keening Banshee causing the same problem. But I did reset back to rank 7, and I
I
said...
feel attacked.
I felt attacked too when my opponents had Corridor Creeper. It came down very quickly and hit for 5. So, so I reset back to rank 7. I said, it's been a while since I've gotten a win streak. Let me go get a win streak. And I promptly lost the first 2 games I played in a row, including losing with turn 6 Deathstalker Rexar against an Odd Warrior. And then I decided I'm gonna go back to work because I was taking a little break. It's okay. It's okay.
Hey, Hat, have you heard of Zarek's Cloning Gallery Priest?
I have, but I have my dust earmarked for another card, Murabi.
Oh yeah.
Because
Tell us about that one.
So,
I saw this tweet earlier.
in United Hearthstone League, my good friend Daniel Stormrage Sheldon of Blizzlet fame, which you should listen to if you are over 18 and aren't surrounded by children, because it is not an all ages podcast. It is very actively a non all ages podcast. So for grown-ups with immature senses of humor, but not for children with immature sense of humor. Playing in UHL this week, so we're declaring our classes. We're applying by a few rules. The rules that we are applying by is that you must play classic and basic cards, and then each of your decks can only have additional cards from one expansion. And then once you tell your opponent, in my case I tell Daniel, he tells me, once we tell each other what those expansions are, three cards of your opponent's choosing must be included in that deck. So, I am playing, now I'll make sure this is clear, I am playing, gonna make sure I edit this as I scroll, I should have had this ready. Alright, so, Stormrage is playing Journey to Ungora Warrior, Knights of the Frozen Throne Paladin, and Witchwood Rogue. And I said he has to play in every deck. Well, I asked him two questions. Do you own Cairn? And do you own Mukla?
Yes!
So...
You're gonna get destroyed!
I mean...
his Ungora Warrior deck must play Cairn, Mukla, and Explore Ungoro. His Knights of the Frozen Throne Paladin must play Cairn, Mukla, and Wretched Tiller, the 1-mana 1/1 that when it attacks deals 2. And when it comes into play, it says, "Boy, howdy, am I undead?" Which is the reason why I picked it, in case you're wondering. And then...
better watch out, that's a pretty bursty card.
It aligns very well with the theme. And then the Witchwood Rogue... Let's see... What is there?
Please tell me you're putting Wild Pyro in all your decks to take advantage of these bananas.
No. I'm not revealing my strategy. But the... well, and these are his cards. He has to play these cards. Oh, wait, so yes, I will get the bananas.
Yes.
And then his Witchwood Rogue must play Cairn, Mukla, and Mad Hatter. Which makes sense.
That
but
make a lot of sense.
he originally had K and C Rogue, and he switched away from it, which is unfortunate because I was going to ask him to include the best 2-mana 1/2 that we all know and love. And
it's your boy.
So I am playing
the Scorpion King.
The yes, indeed, the Scorpion King. So I am playing, and I want you all to know, before Daniel picked the cards, I informed him my Tavern Brawl pack this week had a Golden Lorewalker Cho, which I was also very excited about. So
that's Daniel's favorite card.
I am well aware of his relationship with Lorewalker Cho. So I have picked Knights of the Frozen Throne Shaman, Kobolds and Catacombs Druid, and Boomsday Paladin. And for those of you wondering, I am absolutely building Freeze Shaman. I am typing in the word freeze, adding every single card that is legal to that Shaman deck, and then filling it in.
Sequential Freeze Shaman.
It will... I don't think there are enough cards to make a sequence, but there will be Voodoo Hexers. There will 100% be Murabi. There will be the Icebreaker, among other things. The KNC Druid is going to be an Astral Tiger Recruit Druid. We are playing Astral Tigers. We are playing Grizzled Guardians. There will be some Astral Tigers. And then the Boomsday Paladin is about as mechy as I can get. And so, Daniel told me the Knights of the Frozen Throne Shaman must include Ice Fishing, Burlock, and Snow Flipper Penguin. Now, I was already planning on including the first two, but he added the Snow Flipper. The Druid must include Twig of the World Tree, Shimmering Courser, and Marin the Fox.
That's
you get to hit him with your golden one.
I know, right? And then the, what's the last one? And the Boomsday Paladin must include... Where did he tell me this? I should have had this ready, but I don't.
All I can think about right now is how sweet a Photoshop of The Rock as the Scorpion King on Scorpomatic would be.
Spartacus Fett, if you're listening, this is for you. And then the Boomsday Paladin will include the Lorewalker Cho, Kangor's Army, and Prismatic Lens, which means I am giving my opponent a Kangor's Endless Army. That's the dream. That's the 9-mana combo.
Wait, you can only play cards from Boomsday though, in that, right?
Yeah.
Damn, because Scorpomatic's not in Boomsday.
I'm
the Paladin deck.
I'm
You could
You
draw
can't
it with
Eldor Scorpomatic people.
Yeah, and you could draw it with Prismatic Lens.
I am aware, but I am playing Knights of the Frozen Throne Druid, and while it may be a recruit deck, sometimes that recruit just got to get you a 1/2. Sometimes that's what has to happen. So, Daniel, if you're listening, the gauntlet has been thrown. My Oaken Summons is getting a 1/2 mech. But there will be times when I draw it, and you know what? I'm going to say, wow, I have this Lore Walker Cho in play. I wish there was a way for me to destroy it so I could play this spell. Wait a second. Wait a second. Just be aware of the synergies that are incoming.
The Scorpion King, breaker of legendaries.
Yep. And listen, the Paladin deck... Oh no, the Shrink Ray, so I can't do... Is there any way to reduce power in a Druid deck? There isn't, right?
I don't think so.
That's a shame. Because, yeah, that synergy with Paladin would have been really nice. A man can dream. Oh well. Still think it'll be a lot of fun. So we're playing in UHL this week. That's how my week has been.
When is that? When is that happening?
That is Sunday. So make sure to check that out. Sunday evening. And I think it's Sunday evening. I should probably look because I have to work Sunday. I'll get back to you when that is. I don't know for sure yet. But I'll let you know. And it'll be fun and great. It'll be great and fun. And just to prove that I'm not just memeing all the time, I am currently... I have a 74% game win rate in THL this season. The pod people are the leading team in our division. So I'm very happy about that as well. But I'm not going to put Karen or Mukla or Scorpomatic in those decks.
I do like your hard turn in UHL. You went from winning basically every single match ever to just completely memeing and currently 0-3.
Are you...
He said winning? We don't need that.
Are you disrespecting the Clockwork Automaton Cube Hunter? Is that what you're doing?
I played
right
that
now?
in one of Daniel's tournaments. It actually lost me the tournament because he made up some weird rule he didn't tell us about before the tournament, where you get to switch decks, and I had the Automaton Hunter deck that was an odd Hunter deck, and then I also had Lorewalker Cho Togwaggle Rogue, and just everybody took my Hunter deck and just hero powered me in the face, and I died because I was playing Lorewalker Cho Rogue. It was anyway. That was a long
Bottidictus.
time ago. I'm not bitter.
Bottidictus. Have some class. It's Lorewalker Chogue.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Let's go on to the news. So Hearthstone released quite a bit of patch notes. There's actually a lot of information in here, but not... I don't know. It doesn't feel like a ton of content to me, but a bunch of relevant stuff. Pretty cool. It's gonna... oh man, what are they calling it? I should have known what this was called. Hollow's End. Yes, should have known that. Hollow's End begins October 17th and it runs through the 31st. For logging in during this period of time, you will get a free Golden Witch's Cauldron. Pretty cool. Maybe we can work that back into an odd Paladin deck, because I remember that was really cool the day that came out. Dual class arenas will be going. They'll have a new Tavern Brawl with Headless Horsemen and one with some old Monster Hunt allies. It looks like the new Paladin hero will be live, and it's going to be... It looks like it's going to be it's going to be bundled with a couple Witchwood packs based on the picture. We don't have the full details on it yet. The new player ranks are going to be active, and for ranking up from rank 50 to 25, you will get a total of 22 free packs. You can skip doing those ranks. They will allow you to skip to rank 25. But you will not receive any of the packs by skipping. So in order to get those packs, you have to actually play through all the ranks, and you won't be able to play in casual or wild until after you have gone through all of those ranks. I'm kind of interested what you guys think about this. I actually think it's a really good option, because a whole big reason for them having this new player experience thing is that they don't want people to be forced to experience high-end tier meta decks unless they're ready to experience that. And I feel like having the casual button there gives them the option of thinking, oh, well, I can just practice in casual, when realistically they should be practicing in ranked play. They get used to playing in ranked, they get used to gaining stars, they get the feeling and want to play more. I kind of like this. Interested in what you guys think about not being able to play wild or casual until after you've hit rank 25. Start with Appa.
I think it's great. In other games that I play, I may just be in the minority, but in other games that I play, I like playing against other people of similar skill level or similar experience. Yeah, I mean, you have the option to skip it, but if you're actually just learning the game and trying to get like your bearings and a feel for everything, then going through and playing with people who have a similar collection, similar experience, and I don't know. I think it's just an overall good thing. Plus, they give you like free cards, free packs, all that kind of stuff, a bunch of free quests. I don't know. I think it's just overall pretty good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that this improves the new player experience by quite a bit. I mean, 22 free packs. You're guaranteed at least one classic legendary by the time you finish the ranks, which is cool. And then you get packs from a bunch of different. There's a grouping of packs that you get. It's at rank. Once you hit rank 25, you get 2 classic card packs and then 2 from the most recent 4 Hearthstone expansions. So, yeah, I think this is pretty cool. I hope this generates a bit more interest for new players. A few more things. The welcome bundle has been refreshed this time. When you buy it, if you still need to fill out your classic collection, you will be guaranteed one of the legendary dragons instead of a class legendary. They added some new quests and changed a few cards to have a new keyword that are cast when drawn. So these are cards like Deck of Wonders, like Spider Ambush,
Valdori Strider.
Valdori Strider, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and the 2 different kinds of ambushes. There's the mines, the Seaphorium Bomb and Iron Juggernaut mines.
yeah, so it's no actual change to it. It's just a wording change, make it a little bit more clear. I like the new wording for it.
Well, I think before it could theoretically, if it got in your hand somehow, it would actually draw you a card if you played it, because they used to say when you cast this, draw a card. So I believe there is a tiny eensy-weensy functional change.
Yeah, Peter Whalen, he confirmed that on Twitter, that if it gets in your hand somehow, it doesn't cast it when you draw it. It's only when it comes off the top of the deck it'll draw it.
Okay.
Yep.
So it is. Okay, that's interesting.
It's a very tiny functional change that will not come up for anyone that isn't like Danehearth, but it is entirely possible for a game to go a different way this way. But I think I agree with you. It adds a lot of clarity.
I'm gonna need my dust refund, Blizzard. Thank you.
But they buffed the darkness. Now Glinda will duplicate the darkness.
Yep, big buff to people playing darkness.
No, darkness Glinda.
Warlock decks.
Yeah, because you can go double summoning portal and then 5 darknesses. Or no, it doesn't. It reduces.
4.
It won't reduce to below 1, so only 4 darknesses.
Well, also you only have space for 4 if you have 2 summoning portals.
But what if you Scorpomatic one of them? Keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Then you have the same number of creatures on board. What are you doing?
Don't math me.
Distract me. Okay. The innkeepers now have the option for fireside brawls to choose one of the previous ones just to kind of improve fireside gatherings. And then a few game improvements here. The biggest one, I think, is now in a turn, if you draw more than 3 cards, the animation is going to speed up a bit. So that's pretty interesting. It gives, I think, players in tournaments a little bit more time to react to turns where maybe auctioneer turns or UI turns. Not that there's a whole lot extra to do on a UI turn usually, but just makes a lot of sense when you're drawing a lot of cards. You don't need the screen to go so slowly and kind of waste your rope time. Pretty big bug fix here that I've heard Blister Guy talk about on the Walk to Work podcast of Myra's unstable element. There was an issue if you would try to play a card before the animation had finished resolving, it would disconnect you, and they fixed that. And then there's also a ton of other small bug fixes, like Kat was saying earlier about Glinda and the Darkness, and just a bunch of various stuff. We have a link in the show notes if you want to see all of the bug fixes, but for the most part, that's the new patch.
Only thing I'll add is that we actually got confirmation from a listener, Ben Hearthstone. The new player ranks are 5 stars. So I do agree that I think it is a big benefit to the game to have a new player zone, and I think that gating casual and wild does make a lot of sense, especially considering that we recently found out one of the hosts in this very show plays a lot of casual mode, and I would not want a brand new player running into Bottidictus and saying this is how the game is supposed to feel when they get cloning galleried into next week. But I will say that...
Oh no, we're playing cloning gallery on ladder.
Right. Yeah. So I wouldn't want I wouldn't want that experience to be something a new player runs into if the intention is gating them from the terrors of the ladder, e.g., people actively playing combo priest decks for fun. Yes, Wicked Good, I'm calling you out. But 5 stars per rank for 25 ranks is a lot of stars. It's basically saying you're going to be in that mode for 200 games. And that's a lot of games.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, and I think if I never had any experience with a card game before, and I just kind of jumped into this, I think I would be okay with that. I think I would want to gain ranks and like get to rank 25 and all that stuff, but I think it would be fine if I was a completely new player and I just jumped into ranked and I had 5 stars. Like, you still get the win streaks and everything, but you are in an environment where you're not paired up against people with massive collections and stuff like that. It's a great learning environment, and I think... Sorry, hit my mic. I don't know. I just think the 5 stars to us, it seems like a lot because we grind ladder a bunch, and that would feel like a ton to go from 50 all the way up to wherever we are now. But I think for a new player, they probably don't care about their rank as much, and they're just looking to play and learn the game and just have some fun. So I think it's a pretty good idea.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either, just because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. The feeling of progression is what really matters. If they do care about their rank, 50 to 25 is 25 ranks higher. Like, that's a lot. When we have the hypothesis that one of the worst things for the game is removing that you had to go from 16 to legend every single month if you're a legend player, then of course 25 or 50 to 26 is a reasonable climb, especially because it doesn't reset you lower than that. It doesn't drop you down at the end of the month, we don't think. And once you pass a rank, you never drop down and you can't lose stars at all. I do think that progression is good. I don't know if that's too big of a volume, but if we operate under the assumption that growth is good and progress is good, 50 to 49 is still progress. It really depends. The thing that we don't know is, will players be looking at the new player pool in its entirety and saying, 50 to 25 is forever, I'm never gonna get out of here, I should just stop trying? Or will they say this feeling of permanent progress, despite being in this separate ladder, is a good thing? I don't know. I think I could see it going either way. I'm hoping it's more that permanent progress is good, as opposed to a seemingly insurmountable goal for someone with a casual time commitment is bad. But I think it's worth noting that that is a way that a person could take it, and I'm curious to see how it works out.
Yeah, I think it's a very long duration to be playing before you actually get into the ranks. So I'll be interested to see if any tuning ends up happening to it, to see if they adjust, if people maybe start out ranking up and get to rank 40 and then just kind of quit the game if because it feels like the grind is taking too long, or kind of how it ends up working out. But I think for now it's a great start, and we'll see how and if it changes in the future. The next little news item we have here is Savjz is done with Hearthstone, which this was put in the show notes. I don't know exactly how much I like talking about stuff like this. Savjz is obviously a very big streamer, and it kind of goes along with the theme we've been talking about lately of a lot of people struggling with their relationship with the game, and it looks like there's a video here of him playing Magic the Gathering Arena, and just essentially saying that if he keeps playing Hearthstone, he's going to run into mental health issues. And so I think this is good for him to have a bit of a break. He speaks a bit about just the sameness of every day of kind of the meta right now. So it's kind of sad. It sounds like, it's sad we're kind of losing him at this point in time, but hopefully if things can improve with Hearthstone, he can come back. We'll kind of see. I mean, for some people, when they just play something for an extended period of time, some people can keep doing it, and some people realize that they need to stop. And we'll see how long it lasts. Hopefully not indefinitely, but there's a lot of other games pressing for people's time right now, trying to grab attention from people's time. So we'll see where it goes from here. Either of you have more of a response to this?
I mean, excuse me. He's doing what he feels like's best for him, which is the most important thing. I mean, it's like we do a competitive podcast for Hearthstone. We play on ladder fairly seriously. We've all been pretty high legend before. We love the game a lot, but that's just what it is. It's a game at the end of the day. So it's not worth like causing harm to your own health in one way or another just to continue to play something that you're not happy with. So it's good that he's stepping back and taking a break. I mean, everyone's bound to get burnt out at some point or another. I think that's just pretty common if you just do something over and over, even if you enjoy it. If you do something over and over enough, like streaming for hours and hours a day, you'll eventually get burnt out with it. And especially with how stagnant the meta has been for the past 2 expansions, basically, it's definitely feels like the perfect storm for him in terms of just kind of being bored with the game. So it's good to see him recognizing what he needs to do for his own personal health. And he's a great figure in the community, so I definitely hope we have him back. But I mean, it's not like Hearthstone's dead because we have streamers leave. I mean, we've had big streamers leave before, and I mean, scene's still fine. Just, I don't know. Don't really have too much more to add to that.
Yeah, I added this to the notes because I think it's important for us to stay connected during this time with the tone of the game in general. And there's been a good amount of constructive feedback. I think Kibler had a really great video on state of the game. Savjz is, he's a big figure, but also him being so visibly unhappy and actively choosing to move away, the timing is very particular. But I think it's also worth balancing that out with a few things that we didn't include in the notes, like, for example, Disguised Toast chart of average Hearthstone viewership over time. We didn't put that in the notes because I think it's misleading data. Hearthstone viewership is going to flag as meta stabilize and based on time of the year, and it bumps back up whenever rotations happen. That's a standard thing. Savjz leaving doesn't mean the scene is dying. It means there's competition in the field, that there's other things for competitive streamers to do, and Savjz has also been playing Hearthstone since beta. It's a very, very long time. And good for him for doing that, but V. Markov is saying this in the chat, it's work. This was his job. And playing this game for hours and hours a day, every single day, there's going to be a breaking point for most people at that level, and Hearthstone is just not a game that we think at this time can support, let alone 40 hours a week. This is like 60 to 80 hours a week of Hearthstone that you are obligated to play 5 to 6 days a week for money. That's going to be a complicated relationship there. So I added this in to both keep our finger on the pulse of Hearthstone content creation in general, and on Savjz in particular because he's been around for so long. He's a well-known player, very popular player, and also it's time for him to move on, and that's okay. Doesn't mean Hearthstone is dying, it just means it's the sort of thing that we want to keep an eye out for. If it starts happening in larger numbers, right? If Zalay and Firebat and Crip and Kibler all switch to different games, then I'd be worried. Right now it's just one person, and that's okay. Or at least.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I think it's important to have notes like this. It just feels a little uneasy because I don't want to ever be the thing like the podcast where we're just saying this person left and this person left and every week somebody leaves. Because I think that happens and then people come back very quickly after they say they're leaving or don't do what they're saying they're doing. But as long as Savjz is improving his mental health, then I'm all for this, and we'll see how it goes from here. There was a Twitter post from I want to say, I should have checked this first. He's
Pokervac.
A professional. Yeah, Pokervac. Is he Russian?
Yes.
Okay. Russian streamer who lost one game and lost 6 stars. And then there's a video, a Twitch clip posted about it. And it's not a whole lot to talk about with this, but just a very interesting anecdote. Probably something you should, if you haven't seen the clip, because it takes him a while to notice. But if you know what you're looking for, you see him lose the game, and then just all the stars start to go away, and then he queues up a new game and doesn't really notice it, and then queues up a new game, and then you can tell somebody in his chat lets him know that he's rank 4 now when he was rank 3-4 stars, and he looks and kind of, that's where the clip ends. But it was pretty funny and also a little upsetting that a bug like that happened. Hopefully it got fixed somehow, but
yeah, it's really interesting whenever they change the ladder system in some way, how weird bugs pop up like this just because of how the code's structured on the back end. It's funny from a spectator point of view. I'm sure for him it was really frustrating. Like, what the heck? Why did I just lose 6 stars? This is awful. But I mean, it's just some silly bugs that you'll see because just of how code's structured. So I was talking in Discord earlier about how I'd love to see what line of code specifically caused this bug. And there have been some weird visual bugs with like friends lists displaying people at like rank 257 legend, I think is a specific number in wild, whenever they're just not that rank. So it's definitely has to do with them adding rank 50 to the ladder, but not sure what specifically is causing that specific bug. But
yeah, there was a post in our Discord earlier about Calum showing up on somebody's friends list as rank 4,900 wild on day 2.
That was from when the patch got rolled out across different platforms at different times. If you took the patch and looked at someone that didn't have the patch, they were all either ranked 257 legend in standard or 4,000 something in wild. Just a visual bug, and there's some kind of weird system thing. It is kind of funny that adding a ranked mode where you literally can't lose stars causes people to lose extra stars, but technical debt is a complicated thing, and I don't envy the developers for having to literally double the size of the ladder after they increased it so dramatically earlier this year.
Yeah, so one of the last news items we had on here is Brode had a keynote that there's a little bit of a YouTube video, and I know Hat wanted to talk about this. So I got to see a little bit of the video. I haven't seen the full thing, but what's kind of what's going on in this video, Hat?
So, call a little video. It's 38 minutes. Great video. This is very much about game design and development. It is pretty nuts and bolts and pretty high level. I think there's some really cool stuff in here. For those of us that play games and don't develop them, it's definitely more targeted towards developers. Developer keynote at PAX. The 5 key points he goes into are the importance of responsiveness, matchmaking, vision, player sentiment, and crunch. And he spends a good amount of time talking about it. Like Sam Pardo, who was the lead designer on Warcraft 3, the original Warcraft 3. He talked about how the responsiveness of the gameplay is so important that Blizzard spent the time to identify the mouse cursor had 3 frames of lag, which is 0.3 of a second, that they were able to fix and dramatically change the feel of the game, the polish, the speed, and responsiveness of the interface, and it changed the gameplay experience. He talks a lot about matchmaking and about how you need to protect new players from MMR, and balancing by win rate is a trap that often will... A player's win rate and their chance to quit are inversely proportional, so if you are winning 0% of your games, you are 100% likely to quit. If you're winning 100% of your games, you are 0% likely to quit, at least for a while. And there's a middle ground there that has to be sought out, but he told a pretty funny story about PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And he said that the first time that he got a winner chicken dinner when he won the game, he posted to Facebook. He was really happy. And then he said his friends pointed out that many of the players on the opposing team were bots that were specifically designed to let him win. And he felt silly and took down the page, but indicated that he felt really proud of that feeling of winning. It was kind of interesting to see that relationship there and how a game developer has to look at that versus the zero sum that we think of on the ladder of if one player wins more, someone else has to win less. That's not always true. And making it not zero sum can be interesting. And there's a lot more in here. I'm not going to try and summarize and paraphrase 38 minutes from a person that's been a game designer for decades when I've been a game designer for none. But definitely worth your time checking out if you're interested at all in what makes a game tick. And it was really cool to watch. And I miss Brode.
I think we all miss Brode.
He's with us in spirit via King Mukla, the Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King Mukla.
Scorpion King Mukla. I wish Scorpomatic was a beast, so we could build a beast. The one true savior of us all. Okay, this meme has gotten so meta at this point.
I love it.
Let's move on.
All right, so we had a couple more things. I feel like the news section has gone on a little long, but if you want to check it out, I'm going to have them in the show notes. It's a couple articles. The first one's on Newsweek about how Hearthstone developers deal with problematic cards, and the other one is IGN article about how the Boomsday legendaries were developed. So if you're interested in those, check them out. I don't know if you guys wanted to say anything before we move on from that, but couple of really good articles. The first one is an interview with Mike Dene where he goes over some things. Where he specifically says, I don't think we would have printed Giggling Inventor if we knew how powerful it was after they decide not to nerf it. Yeah. That's a word for word quote. Yep. Is there anything else we want to talk about with the articles? I think it's tournament time. Tournament time.
It's the grand tournament.
Okay. So we've got a couple of tournaments that happened this week, as well as the HGG Elimination round. Just want to give a heads up. We actually discussed, because we recorded on Thursday last week and Tuesday this week, we have the final results. We announced them last episode. The top 8, Bulgaria, Brazil, China, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Norway, Spain, and Taiwan. They're playing at BlizzCon. There's no more HGG until BlizzCon. So what we went over last week was actually the end of that tournament for now, or at least the end of the elimination rounds until we get to BlizzCon November 2nd. The high-level recap, we've got 2 tournaments, 1 Conquest, 1 LHS. We've got HCT Oslo run by Polaris in Norway. Last year, a standing tournament. Zoohex took the tournament over Just Sayin. Kallax and Hypno, top 4. Still, all of those players having a very good year so far. Mitsuhide, Sir Salte, Impy, and Hoi in the top 8. Very strong top 8. In China versus EU, now I want to point out, I incorrectly quoted this last week. The winner does not get a Ferrari. They got an Aston Martin. Still a very nice car. Ferrari was last year. Aston Martin was this year. So I'm afraid I made an Aston Martin out of myself. But that's okay. No big deal. Thijs won the tournament over Shao T. Orange and Fury Hunter were top 4. A83650 from Poland. Bunny Hopper from Germany. Kalento and X-Hope were top 8. 6 European players. 2 Chinese in the top 8. Strong showing from the Europeans. But Shao T from China made it all the way to the finals. It was actually 1 life away from winning the tournament. Now the meta, well, I want to really showcase the difference between the tournament meta in LHS and Conquest. As anyone playing in the Concede of Ellen Chosen Listener League will know, there's a lot of differences between what decks work. In Oslo, the top 8, there were 8 Warlocks, 6 Even, 2 Zoo, 8 Druids, 6 Token, a Togwaggle, and a Mally, 7 Rogues, 4 Quest, and 3 Odd, 3 Odd Warriors, 2 Tempo Mages, 1 Recruit Hunter, 1 Secret Hunter, 1 Shutterwalk Shaman, 1 Paladin. The most popular cards, there were 8 out of 8 8 Lich Kings in the top 8, 8 Malfurions, 7 Floops, 8 UIs, 8 Branching Paths, 8 Arcane Tyrants, noticing a theme, 7 Mossy Horrors, 13 Giggling Inventors, and 10 Serenite Chain Gangs. The winning lineup was Togwaggle, Quest Rogue, Evenlock, Odd Warrior. Second was Mally Druid, Tempo Mage, Odd Rogue, and Zoo. Now, when we go over to China versus EU, the entire tournament, we have all the deck lists. And it's a little different. There were 15 Warlocks, the most popular class, 7 Zoo, 6 Even, 2 Cube Warlocks. The Rogues, there were 8 Odd and 6 Quest. The Druids, there were only 5 Token, 4 Mally, 3 Taunt, and a Togwaggle. The Hunters, there were 8 of them. 4 Recruit, 3 Secret, 1 Baku. There were 8 Shaman decks, 6 Shutterwalk, and 2 Even. 4 Tempo Mages, 2 Odd Paladins, 0 Warriors, 0 Priests. And the most popular cards are dramatically different. There were 16 Keleseths in the top 6, or in the 16 players' decks. So 25% of decks had Keleseth, which is kind of gross. There were 15 Leroys, 14 Blood Knights, 14 Mossy Horrors, 20 Serenite Chain Gangs, and 20 Giggling Inventors. So you can notice the ratio of Shutterwalks is way, way higher. Even though we have double the number of decks from China versus EU for our data, it would be, if it were the same number of decks, we would have 3 Shutterwalk and 1 Even versus just a single Shutterwalk. We had 3 Warriors in LHS, 0 in Conquest. And much higher Mage representation, much higher Hunter representation in Conquest, and much higher Quest Rogue representation in Oslo and LHS. It's kind of fascinating to see the differences. The winning lineup in the LHS, or in the Conquest tournament, China versus EU, was Mally Druid, Tempo Mage, Odd Rogue, and Warlock Zoo. Second place was Baku Hunter, Tempo Mage, Odd Rogue, and Zoo. Both those lineups very much geared towards beating Quest Rogue. You don't have to tech quite as hard in LHS because you want more of a polarized spread. So again, look at that winning lineup. Togwaggle, Quest Rogue, Even Warlock, and Odd Warrior versus Mally Druid, Tempo Mage, Odd Rogue, and Zoo. Could not be more different because the strategies are so diametrically opposed. And
Baku Hunter.
it's really good against Quest Rogue.
Wow. Yeah,
Really good against Quest Rogue. Actually,
true,
a better matchup than Tempo Mage, which I think are both above 90% at the Legend ranks.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting, but that lineup is just all about complete full face aggro, and you look at what it was trying to beat. I think that deck probably beats Shutterwalk more than it doesn't. I wonder if it beats Token Druid. I wouldn't be surprised if it beats most Druids, unless they start gaining a lot of armor. I don't know, but you probably beat Rogue. That's probably just an anti-rogue lineup. Anyways, we've got a couple games to watch. And I've written 3 full pages on 2 games to watch, so buckle in. I'll talk quickly, which I know you can depend on. So Thijs versus Orange. Thijs is playing Malygos Druid versus Orange playing Quest Rogue. And this is a game about back and forth. Quest Rogue's opener is Fan of Knives, Quest Wax Elemental. In the opening hand, that's Orange. Thijs' opening hand, after the first draw, Wild Growth, Nourish, Arcane Tyrant, Ultimate Infestation on the coin. For those of you unfamiliar with Druid, that is a good hand. So, on turn 4, he nourishes to 8 mana, actually chooses not to play the Arcane Tyrant in case of Sonya Shadow Dancer, which is kind of just a commentary on the meta that we have here. Orange is like, well, I guess I'll play double Novice Engineer and a Wax Elemental Protect. I got nothing else going on because his hand is double Wax, double Novice, double Glacial Shard, Scalehide, Prep, and Vanish. Hand is poop. It's a poop hand. It's not a good hand. So, it's like, I guess I'll play these Novice Engineers, draw a couple new cards, play the Wax to protect him. One of the Novices live. The other Wax Elemental comes down, Prep and Vanish. It's okay. Novice lives, draws a Mimic Pod, and the Vanish actually takes away the 5/5 from Ultimate Infestation and the Arcane Tyrant that got played out, because now you don't have to worry about defending against Sonya because you can't stop it if you play UI. Quest gets up to 3 ticks, Waxy is relevant, but Malfurion comes down, Novice Engineer can't finish the quest, it's dead now, but then Mimic Pod hits 2 Sonya Shadow Dancers, and there's a deckhand in hand. So if Orange wanted to, he could play double Shadow Dancer, deckhand, get 2 1/1 deckhands back. He doesn't. Just plays Sonya, deckhand, and has the 5th deckhand in hand. 5th in deckhand. Do you guys hear that? Hear the thunder? Even nature protests Quest Rogue.
Are you being thunderstruck right now, Hat?
I am absolutely thunderstruck. So, this is where it starts to get a little crazy. Double Waxy, freeze Malfurion, and the Vanish earlier burn Starfall. These Wax Elementals can't go away, so Thijs just replays the Vanish minions, and then deckhand comes down. Quest reward. Thijs was at 57, but isn't safe. After the quest comes down, he's down to 44. Of course, he has a backbreaking play. Plague for 3 spiders, Mind Control Tech, take one of your deckhands, Spellstone the Wax Elemental, you're down to a single minion. And actually, I'm going to kill that other minion because it's a deckhand, and I don't want Sonya to cause problems. Orange has the 2nd Vanish, destroys a bunch of stuff, puts back 2 Scarabs, and a 5/5, and burns a Tyrant, and plays Shard, and plays Boar, and his hand is Scalehide, Giggling Inventor, and the 2nd Sonya. And there's a top deck Shadow Step. So, Giggling Inventor, Shadow Step it, and you look at that 3 mana Giggling Inventor in hand, that's 3 mana, gain 12 power. Pretty good. Thijs is so far behind, he has to play Phlebidinous Floop as a Scarab. It is a 4 mana 3/4 taunt. It's worse than Keening Banshee. He also has a 1/4 Twig of the World Tree, but he's down to 29. Sony's behind Annoyatrons. Spreading Plague for 6 minions. Both fans have already been played to draw cards. Slow the game down. And Orange can't punch through the 6 minions. And Thijs is playing a list of Malygos with Dream Petal Florist. He plays it, the only other minion in his hand is Malygos. And there's hope because there's only 2 cards left in the deck. Branching Pass has Shield Block, draws 1 of them. Gain 6 armor, draw a card. Hand is Swipe, Moonfire, Malygos. Armor up, go up to 29. Drop down to 15 on the following turn. Draw the last card in hand. Or the last card in deck, which is the last Moonfire. 2 mana Mally. Swipe, Moonfire. 9 damage, 18 damage, 24 damage, 30 damage. Orange at 29 life. And claim this game with exactly no cards in the deck. Despite being under substantial pressure. Pretty cool. Really interesting to watch. A lot of cool swings. That was the short game out of the 2 we're going to talk about today. The other game, I'm going to try and broad stroke as much as possible. This is an HCT Oslo. Casie versus Jarla. Game 3, it is a Control Benedictus Priest versus an Odd Warrior. You should watch this game. Be warned, it is literally 1 hour. The game is actually a full 60 minutes. Not an exaggeration. It is, the actual game is an hour. Gonna try and keep this as high level as possible, but there's a bunch that can happen in an hour. Right? The beginning of the game, two super slow decks focused on developing. There's a mind control tech as a 3-3, Giggling Inventor here and there. First relevant action is like turn 8. While I have a Twilight Drake down, and you've got a Giggling Inventor and a 3-3 Direhorn, Pyro, Shield, Mind Blast, Divine Hymn, kill it off, push for 4. With a Mind Blast. And that's a Mind Blast on turn 8. You normally are used to seeing that Mind Blast being held till the very end of the game. But no, it's 5 damage no matter what. There's a bunch of armor there, I gotta get rid of it, just use it now. The next turn, another Giggling Inventor. Same thing. Mind Blast, Shield, Hymn, push. Now, a Priest going face is a Priest after my own heart. And Casie has to use Brawl, 5 mana kill a Twilight Drake. Pretty not great there. And then Jarla plays Bottidictus, guaranteeing this game will go a while. And he plays a Tempo Alex versus an activated Dr. Boom, and then Omega Assembly's like Bulldozer, boom, trade with your Alex. And then, of course, as we all expected, Anduin kills the Bulldozer. What? What's happening? This is like 20 minutes into the game, by the way. And a Psychic Scream, Jarla correctly recognizes. He has a Psychic Scream against a 6-4 Dinomatic that has a Ziliax graphed onto it, and 3 1-1 Microbots. He kills off one of the Microbots with Anduin before Psychic Screaming, even though you normally want your opponent to draw a 1-1 mech for 1, just to make the fatigue come faster. It was pretty cool. And then the Priest plays Super Collider to kill a Bronze Gatekeeper and a big Game Hunter, along with a Ping. And then Beryllium Nullifier comes down, it gets Mass Dispelled, and then the Warrior plays a Super Collider to counter the Priest Super Collider. It's very complicated. Both players are really hyper-focused on the board, and what's interesting here is that Anduin means the Priest has no defense outside of removal. So life totals are only going down for the Priest, they're not going up. And Dr. Boom really is good at generating value and pressure. So Primordial Drake is needed from Jarla to clear out a bunch of crap on board. There's a 3-1 taunt that needs to go away. There's a bunch of 1-1s. The only thing that stays behind is Elise. And then Casey's like, well, I played my Elise. I guess I'll Azalina. And now the Warrior has Geist, Psychic Scream, Pyromancer, Ziliax, and Dinomatic, which he stole from the Priest. Weird hand, weird game. That's the third Ziliax, by the way. 30 minutes in, we've got 30 more minutes to go. Casey's down to 10 cards in deck. Jarla's down to 22. And Casey's really just trying to be a crappy aggro deck. And Jarla's just trying to keep the life total high. Dropping down to 10, but he's got a bunch of taunts in the way. He's actually able to Ziliax a Coppertail Imposter to gain some life back, which of course we totally expected to see in the Bottidictus Priest versus Odd Warrior matchup. And then Casie, the Warrior, Psychic Screams the giant Coppertail Imposter back into the Priest deck. Head hurts. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And then, by the way, Jarla plays the Bottidictus Elise. And then Casie plays Explodinator for the Goblin Bombs that are actually relevant for the life total damage. And Jarla actually gets some board control here. The Priest, with Omega Assembly, getting Steel Rager, Replicating Menace, and Dinomatic, he pushes Casie down to 24. And then Casie, the Warrior, gets a Weaponized Pinata, and then opens his pack. By the way, this Angoro pack, it has got the most Mixmaster Mike selection of cards that I've ever seen. There's a Giant Mastodon, there's a Swamp King Dread, there's a Tyrantus, and then also an Arcanologist and an Obsidian Shard. It's a pretty powerful pack, a lot of big stuff, especially because so much removal has been played already. And suddenly Casie has a board, and Jarla doesn't. Now, it's not a great board. The board is a 3-4 and some 1-1s and a 2-3, but it's a board. And this is when Casie runs out of cards in deck. So, alright, Odd Warrior, time to go face Odd Warrior. 2 Microbots and an Obsidian Shard, in the worst aggressive strategy I've ever seen, start pushing face. Jarla gets down to 8, and then Jarla, the Priest, shield blocks to get a Steel Rager to thin out the board, but then the crappy minion march continues when Casie takes a totally normal Odd Warrior turn of Weaponized Pinata, Skulking Geist. The Weaponized Pinata has Rush, by the way. And the board is so poor for Jarla that even though Casie is out of cards and fatiguing for 2, he has to Psychic Scream away Microbots, a Goblin Bomb, a Weaponized Pinata, and a Skulking Geist. Swamp King Dread comes down. Big Game Hunter it. Tyrantus comes down. Owl, ping it. Shield block as the priest. Ping it again. Attack in for 4 twice. Somehow Tyrantus dies. But then Casie goes in the face plan. He takes that Microbot that he had last turn, and he just magnetics that Skaterbot right on to get in for 2. 2 to the face. So Dustbreaker, of course, has to clear that and pop the Weaponized Pinata in the process, which, by the way, has a Prophet Velen inside. And then Jarla opens his own pack. Stormwatcher, Emerald Reaver, Humongous Razorleaf, Primordial Glyph, Tyrantus, and then plays his own Twilight Drake. Well, I got this giant Mastodon. Jarla's in trouble with the giant Mastodon. Primordial Glyph goes looking, gets a free Shadow Word Pain, but it's Primordial Glyph ping, and then Humongous Razorleaf for 5 mana ping, and then attack in for 5 to kill the Mastodon. Or attack in for 6 to kill the Mastodon. And then Geist develops along with a 1 mana 1/1 from hand. Casie is again down to 0 cards in deck. Jarla the Priest plays Direhorn Matriarch to hold off. But then Velen comes down. And the hero power is Zap Cannon, which deals 3. And with Velen, that's deals 6. So the Skulking Geist clears out the 6/9 taunt. And Velen is on board, and there's no removal left. Well, Jarla the Priest Shadow Visions for a 4th shield block to ping Velen twice, leaving the 7/3 alive. Then the Warrior plays Baku as the actual last threat. I promise this time. There's no more cards in deck. There's 1 more card in hand. There's no more threats. It's over. There's no more. Velen gets pinged off, and there's a 3 mana 2 for a Twilight Acolyte with no dragons, but Baku lives. Baku's at 12, and the board is Baku and a single Goblin Bomb. And then the hero power is Discover a Mech. He looks for anything with magnetic. A Wargear seals the game. It's a Beryllium Nullifier, which is the 3/8 magnetic. Attack for 10. Bring Jarla down to 2. And Jarla says, well, you're at 11 and you're going to fatigue for 4. Ping your face. Attack for 2. Shadow Word Pain my own minion. Ping your face. Emerald Reaver myself down to 1. Ping your face. And Casie fatigues out with lethal on board by a single life point margin. What happened in that game?
A lot happened in that game.
Appa,
Yeah,
you watched this game for some reason.
I did watch this game.
Talk about it.
love
I'm going to mute
control
because
mirrors.
I'm just tired talking about it.
So I love control mirrors a lot. So watching this was super interesting. And I wanted to talk about some of the interesting decisions and key points in the game. And I want to preface this by saying I'm not commenting on either of these players' level of skill. They're both fantastic players. And I want to talk about some of these things to kind of highlight how hard competitive and high level Hearthstone is, and how draining tournaments are, and how easy it is to make mistakes. So the first thing that I didn't even think about is, so I know nothing about this matchup at all. All the things that I learned about this matchup took place watching this hour-long game, because I've never played it before. I've never seen it played before. And one of the interesting things to me that Jarla did in his mulligan was he had the option of Bottidictus, and he mulliganed it away. And that was interesting to me because that's one of the only cards that really matters in the matchup, because you have basically the checkmate against the Odd Warrior as long as you Bottidictus them. And he kept in his hand, I believe it was Twilight Drake, Shadow Reaper, Anduin, and then he mulliganed the Bottidictus. And I thought about it for a little bit, and the reason he did that, well, there's 2 reasons. One is there's 2 ways Casie can realistically win this matchup. One is he tempos out an Azalina before Jarla gets to Bottidictus and gets a lucky steal on the Bottidictus. So then fatigue the game plans out the window, and Casie can realistically grind him down with Dr. Boom. The second way is to aggro the priest down, because he knows he's a huge underdog in this matchup because of Bottidictus. So he gets rid of the Archbishop to play around a random tempo Azalina to randomly steal the game and to find defensive tools to make sure he does not get aggroed down. And the open deck list format is really important here because he knows he has Azalina in his deck. And I mean, he can guess that anyways, but that was something I wanted to highlight. And then I think the one real interesting decision takes place, I think, on turn 5 or 6 or something, where Casie just shield slams a Duskbreaker. He just uses a shield slam, one of his best removal spells, on a 3/3 dorky minion. And that's really interesting because that's not something you really ever want to do. But again, this shows how high level these players are thinking and the importance of having open deck lists, because Casie knows that Jarla has Skulking Geist in his deck, which means that if he ever plays this Geist, the shield slams do nothing anyways, so he's trying to get value out of them as soon as he can and extract as much value as possible. But that also means that Jarla's getting benefit off of just the mere existence of Geist in his deck. It could have been the 30th card, and it's forcing Casie to play in a suboptimal manner, which I thought was really, really interesting. And then there's this one point in the quote-unquote mid-game, I think it's like turn 14 or something, where both players make sequencing errors one turn after another. Casie is facing down a board with a Northshire Cleric and a Mind Control tech, and he has a Dynamatic and a Bronze Gatekeeper in his hand. And he plays the Dynamatic first, and then quickly realizes that he should have played Bronze Gatekeeper first, attack into the Northshire, and then Dynamatic. Where, as it stands, what he had to do after the Dynamatic, because it left 1 health on the Mind Control tech, he had to attack his Dynamatic into the Mind Control tech, and that left it at a 3/1, where that's a little bit of a just lost health and lost little bit of percentage point lost in that little exchange. And then the very next turn, on Jarla's turn, he ends up playing a Spring Rocket for 2 damage. After an Elise, he goes ping Elise. He's left with 3 mana, and he starts roping his turn because obviously he's thinking, because this matchup's very intricate and game planning is extremely important. Making sure you're on the right track is important. And he kind of naturally defaults to the theory of use all your mana every turn. And he used Spring Rocket for 2 damage, and he says oops immediately after, because he realized that he could have just pinged and saved the Spring Rocket for an extra ping later on, which could have been important. It didn't turn out being important, I don't think. It didn't change that much, but it was interesting to showcase how fatigue sets in like very quickly in these kind of games. And then later on down the line, nearing the end of the game, where Casie has Tarantus and the Mastodon in his hand after the Angora pack, he plays the Swamp King Dread and it gets BGH'd. And Casie is known for being a very fast player, and he's kind of taken that as his thing. Is he's the fast player. He's the fast pro player who plays really quickly, plays tight most of the time while he's doing it. But in this case, I think it was actually a detriment to him, because the BGH comes down on the Swamp King Dread and he goes, oh, okay, BGH is used, slams Tarantus. Where I think this is actually something that may have lost him the game. Because if he didn't play Tarantus and he played the Mastodon, Jarla still has to deal with this. It's still a very significant threat that Jarla has to expend resources into. And he can likely get Jarla to use all of his board presence on the Mastodon and then have a quote-unquote virtual checkmate with a Tarantus following up after. But in the sequence that he does it, he plays Tarantus first, Jarla's able to clear it, and then the Mastodon isn't good enough after, because it's much, much easier to deal with as opposed to a Tarantus. So that was another interesting thing to highlight. And the game actually came down to pretty tight play from Jarla on most turns, except, funnily enough, the last turn of the game. He opened himself up to an out that Casie didn't get, but he opened himself up to losing basically an hour-long game because of an oversight that he had, where he had a 0 mana Shadow Word Pain in his hand, and he didn't use it on the Goblin Bomb, where Casey's hero power from Dr. Boom was Discover a Mech. And Jarla was at 12. He was at 7 health and 5 armor, and he had a Baku on the board with a Goblin Bomb and Discover a Mech. We know that one of the mechs has Magnetic and deals 5 damage. Whereas if he just took the 2 damage right now from the Shadow Word Pain, he still had lethal set up the next turn on Casie. Because Casie was at 11, he was fatiguing for 5. He could have pinged Direhorn Matriarch, ping, Emerald Reaver, ping, and that's guaranteed lethal. Because that's 6 damage, 6 plus 5 is 11. So he didn't Shadow Word Pain, and he opened himself up to getting War Geared, which didn't happen. The Beryllium Nullifier happened, Magnetic did on 2, and then Jarla ends the game at 1. But these are just really interesting and very minute things that could have completely changed the course of the game if they were played slightly differently. And it was, again, it's very, very difficult to play these kind of matches, especially in a tournament environment, because it's so draining. But these were things that I picked up on with spectator vision. So I thought those were some things that I could highlight.
I admire your ability to process that entire game and for what's left over to not just look like Carnivorous Cube, because I watched the entire game and my strategic analysis at the end was,
I absolutely love control mirrors. I love eking out the tiny percentages like that and coming away with scraping out wins in every possible out you can think of. And yeah, it was interesting.
It was a cool game, absolutely. It demonstrated to me very clearly why I lack the patience to be a professional Hearthstone player. But if you have the patience to watch this game, it is an exceptional study in high-level game planning, low-level sequencing, and casters attempting to not lose their minds after 60 minutes of casting the same game. So I would strongly recommend it. And Darroch Brown is one of the casters. I believe it was with Lothar. And Darroch has really grown on me as a caster in terms of his ability to identify high-level lines of thinking, much like Appa did in this segment, as well as comment on both the player's execution and his own perspective on what makes sense and how it might have made the game worse if he played it to his game plan. So,
yeah, I think within the first 3 turns, I think his quote was something along the lines of, "I would have played this game much differently, probably to my detriment."
Yeah.
And that's like the most traditional Derek thing to say.
Yeah.
It was great.
If we're lucky enough, we'll get a Darroch Sottle cast in the near future, but that might just be too much brain power for one stream. Anyways, really cool game, super duper long, worth watching, and we're going to wrap up the tournament section. TESPA is going to be the main thing we talk about this next week. Fall Champs are in 2 weeks. They're the weekend of the 11th, and BlizzCon is coming, and it will have HGG plus the Streamer Showdown, so we will be reporting on that. The first weekend of November, which is a month away, and by the way, we'll all be there, and I'll be representing the Coin Concede cast on the Con Before the Storm panel, so if you're at BlizzCon, come say hi. You're welcome to buy me a drink. You can also buy them. Well, neither of them. No, just me. Just me the drinks.
You can buy me a soda. I'll drink a soda.
You can buy Appa a burger. Delicious, greasy burger.
You can buy me a milkshake, chocolate shake.
Okay, you can also buy me a milkshake. I don't want there to be a monopoly on milkshakes there. I love milkshake. Anyways, we're getting off topic here. Let's do some Decksplanations.
So this week is all about aligning your style with stars. And I'm going to thank Hat for that title because he is a master of wordplay. And he just fired that one off in Discord earlier. And no, we're not talking about Starliner Druid. We're talking about how to find the play style that's right for you and how to benefit and grow from having that information. And I'm just going to get this out of the way right up front. Decksplanations might not be applicable to everybody, but we're going to focus heavily on players competing for ladder success and focus entirely on playing Hearthstone on its terms, as we've discussed in the past few weeks. This likely includes a focus entirely on high-tier meta decks and choices to win as much as possible, as fast as possible. You will not find decks with Scorpomatic here, despite its obvious power. Thank you, Hat. Thank you for that one. So this week is for players who are looking to improve their fundamentals and focus on individual growth as a player. So with that all out of the way, let's get into it, because this is immediate explanations. So have you ever played a session on ladder, lost a few games in a row, and thought to yourself, I need to switch decks, the meta is not right for this one right now? Or
Yes.
have you ever switched to the quote unquote best deck in the format and found yourself having no success with it?
Yes.
Have you ever felt yourself jumping between the rock, paper, or scissor of deck of the format and just making no progress at all, or even just losing ranks?
All last month.
All right. So I see many players fall into these sorts of traps very frequently, and I'm not above them either. It happens to me all the time. I think it's just human nature to want to swap to something else when something's not working, to switch strategies when you're hitting a run of bad variants, or to blame the lack of success on your current deck choice. And something I think that seems to be absent in the teaching or coaching process in Hearthstone, at least from my perspective, is the emphasis on the importance of comfort. And I'm going to inject a little anecdote in here. And I say a little, but it's slightly lengthy. So whenever I was learning how to play Magic, the first tournament deck that I won, or the first tournament that I won, was with a deck that's red-green aggro. And that's very similar to like Aggro Hunter or Hybrid Hunter. And after winning that tournament with it, I realized that I really, really enjoyed playing aggro a lot. Eventually, I tried out like combo and control decks and different strategies, and they didn't really drive with me, and I didn't find success with them. But every time that I went back to an aggro deck, I found that I could put up a decent result, and I wasn't really sure what the problem was. And this eventually carried into Hearthstone, where I played Face Hunter, Mid-Range Hunter, Aggro Druid, Aggro Shaman, and I kind of built myself up on those decks. And this pattern continued for like a year of playing in Hearthstone. It transitioned from Magic to Hearthstone, and it struck me that it wasn't really the deck's fault that I was losing whenever I was playing a different strategy. It was about who I was as a player and where I was in terms of growth. And what I mean by that is that I become so comfortable playing aggro, and it just naturally fit my playstyle at the time, that I knew the ins and outs of the different matchups, and I knew how to play that strategy really well, that when I went to combo or control, I had to expend serious brain power thinking of just basic things that should come as second nature to people who are familiar with those archetypes. Like, should I equip this Fire War Axe on turn 2? Should I armor up? Like, should I play this Justicar now, or should I wait? Or should I play this Boom? Should I brawl instead? It's just things that were very, very obvious to me, that are obvious to me now, that are obvious to people who are playing those kinds of decks for a longer period of time, that I was having to really sit there and think about. And the point here is that I spent so much time getting to know the decks that fit my playstyle that I could win bad matchups with those, where I couldn't even win good matchups with other strategies like combo and control. And it was by staying in my comfort zone that I actually learned the most about Hearthstone and really honed my fundamentals, because I wasn't finding success with combo and control. I just stayed with aggro, and it helped me build up fundamentals and learn how to play to my outs, learn how to shut off my opponent's outs, all that kind of stuff. And so whenever I hit Legend for the first time, it was with Fel Reaver Aggro Druid. And after playing that for a month straight on Legend Ladder, I saved up enough dust to build mid-range combo Druid, because a lot of the cards overlapped. But the strategy was wildly different, and I was very lost figuring out how to win games and win different matchups, where whenever I was playing Fel Reaver Aggro Druid, I could play these matchups like much, much better. And it's because the deck was a different archetype and something that I wasn't used to. And on the flip side of this, when League of Explorers was released, when Tunnel Trog came out, I immediately picked up Aggro Shaman and just skyrocketed up the ladder with it. it just came second nature to me. Calculating how much damage I could spend on minions with burn, what outs my were in like back-to-back draws, what exactly I needed when. Like I knew how to play the deck just in and out after playing with it for like a day, and it was second nature. And this is because I had spent so much time here before. It was the same deck, just different cards. It was the same strategy, just same game, different face. So what is really the point of the story? Is it to like stay in your lane and never branch out? No, the point is that instead of bouncing around and trying to be real tricky and counter what I'm playing against, it was that I stayed where I was comfortable and worked on myself as a player there. And my tastes have changed a lot now, and I'm a much better player than I was whenever a lot of this was happening, whenever I was staying like in my comfort zone of aggro. But staying in that comfort zone taught me so much and helped me develop my building blocks and fundamentals as a player, that those helped me whenever I eventually did manage to take the leap and start learning, start being dedicated to learning control and learning combo and stuff. And I think that the main takeaway here is, at least for me personally, that me sticking with a specific strategy that I enjoyed helped me far more than jumping around, at least early on. So did y'all want to kind of jump in on that before we get into?
Yeah, my experience has been pretty much the same with that. I've generally had the most success when I'm playing Hearthstone when I play a deck that I'm comfortable with, that suits my playstyle. Kind of hence me maybe understanding the Xerx's Cloning Gallery deck, because if I've looked at the decks I've been quite good with, I'm actually noticing a lot of them are priest decks, even though I've never considered myself a priest player. But the combo mid-range priest, Raza priest, and this new Xerx's Cloning Gallery priest, I've always had like pretty good results with them, because they're largely these. They're not really controlled. They're combo decks with kind of a very slow style, but usually ends up killing your opponent over a couple of short turns. But yeah, I mean, I think that you gain a lot of information by sticking with something and winning with it and figuring out why you're winning with it. But then when you lose, when you try to transfer over to a new archetype you're less familiar with, there's a lot of things that can come naturally because you've seen a lot of the situations that you get into just from the other side of the table, and that can help out, I think, vastly more than kind of banging your head against the wall trying to learn a deck when you may not be familiar with that play style.
Yeah, or it may be something that just kind of doesn't jive with you, like you were saying. I mean, you're a very good player, and you were saying that you don't really. It's not that you don't get even shaman; it's that you get it, but you also just don't really enjoy playing it very well because it's not like your speed of deck. Which, I mean, I'm sure you could put in a bunch of hours and spend a lot of time learning all the matchups and stuff and be proficient at it, but I don't think you'd enjoy that. I think that would be
No.
that would be not fun for you.
Yeah, it's not an aggressive deck that, I mean, I know we're not exactly classifying as an aggressive deck, and we might get into this later, but I have kind of a definition of, or maybe a different thought process on aggressive decks, but it's not an aggressive deck that suits my kind of play style. Whereas the Paladin decks before have.
And I think it's important for people who are listening who may not even really know what their play style is, or may not have taken time to figure that out, I think it's important to find out really what that is. Like, what do you enjoy doing the most in Hearthstone? Do you like playing cheap, efficient threats, controlling the pace of the early game, making impactful decisions early on? having quick games, then you probably like playing aggro decks. Do you like having flexibility and playing really efficient minions, like solid removal, that kind of stuff? Having a little bit of everything, then you probably like mid-range. Do you like controlling the board, destroying your opponent's minions, having long games where a bunch of small decisions kind of can add up to a victory if you manage your resources right, like what we just saw in the Jarla versus Casie game? If that's your kind of thing, then you're probably a control player. That's probably like right up your alley. Or are you like Bottidictus? Do you like putting together either weird combos of cards that come together in an interesting way, or setting up 2-turn lethals, or playing ice block in the tavern brawl and making sure your opponent has no fun? Then you might be a combo player.
Barely not losing and then all of a sudden win.
Yeah.
I like
don't
those
lose,
decks.
don't lose. Suddenly they're dead.
Yeah.
Then you might be a combo player. And so many players could find much better success learning the ins and outs of various styles, or their specific style that they're comfortable with, instead of swapping when a run of bad variants hits. And there's a reason we have the Fibonacci's of the game who stick with control, or the Monsantos who stick with combo decks, or the Green Sheeps who are aggro loyalists. Like, these are all professional players who have made careers out of honing their specific style. And while it may feel like you should switch to the Tempo Mage when your Odd Warrior deck loses to 3 quest rogues in a row, the honest truth is that even though you'll probably lose those 3 quest games in a row with Odd Warrior, you'll probably end up with a net higher win rate overall if you just stick with that Odd Warrior deck until you're super proficient with that strategy. And sure, you'll lose bad matchups, but I mean, you'll learn how to win them in that case anyways, as opposed to just taking the easy out and switching to the Tempo Mage, be like, I'm crushing all these quest rogues, and then you just lose to some other stuff. And kind of to bring this back to the specific meta, and if you've kind of figured out what kind of player you are and thought about it a lot with some self-reflection, some decks you can play depending on your style in this specific meta. If you're an aggro player, you can play Secret Hunter, Aggro Mage, Odd Paladin, Odd Rogue, Zoo Warlock. If you like playing mid-range decks a lot, you could play Token Druid, Cube Hunter, Even Shaman, Even Warlock. I think Even Warlock is probably the best example of that, and Even Shaman are probably the best examples of traditional mid-range decks for this format. For control, you have Odd Warrior, Big Mage, Control Priest with Benedictus if you're feeling spicy. For combo, we got like Quest Rogue, Shutterwalk, Q-Block, Xerx's Cloning Gallery Priest. And I mean, there's a lot more. These are just some examples. But learning and refining your style and learning within your comfort zone will not only net you more stars than just swapping decks every time you hit variants, but it'll also teach you valuable fundamentals and skills required for learning and growing and mastering learning and growing as a player and mastering other strategies in the future. Like, when I first started learning how to play control, I had a much easier time than a lot of the control only players that I knew. I had a much easier time than them whenever I was playing against aggro, because I was such a big aggro player that I knew what that aggro player's outs were against me, and I knew how to shut the door on them better than a lot of like the dedicated control specialists that I knew at the time that were around my rank, because I had spent so much time like on the opposite side of this scenario. It just taught me a lot of stuff, and it helped me gain a lot of technical prowess. And I can say with confidence that if I tried to counter what I was facing when I was trying to hit legend, or if I was swapping decks whenever I ran into a bunch of bad matchups in a row, that I would have been much worse off for it in terms of player growth than I was, because of sticking with what I was comfortable with and what I knew. And I know Hat wanted to kind of follow up on this after I finish. So,
First of all, Bottidictus, secretly a priest player the whole time.
I didn't even know this. It's kind of, I don't know. It's changing my outlook on things. I'm gonna get lumped. I don't know how I feel about getting lumped into a wicked good
That means that he was
category.
right all along.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm going to link him this part of the episode just so you hear about it.
Oh,
And now
great.
you get to join the Tyrande faithful. Because who mains Anduin? Come on. So, okay. I think this is pretty cool because I think back to when I first was trying to push for Legend. The very, very first time. I really wanted to play Control Warrior. And back then it was called Wallet Warrior. It was very, very expensive. And I still wanted to play it because the feeling that I look for in competitive Hearthstone is the feeling of winning when it's not close. I really love that feeling. Because I'm secretly not a great person when it comes to competitive games. I want to win and I want the other person to know that they lost to me because it was me and they were them and that's just how it is. Just how that interaction is going to go. So, I loved that feeling from Control Warrior. And this was before Justicar was printed. Before Elise was printed. And it was just straight up grind them out. You were playing the Shield Maiden deck, right? That you were barely surviving in the early game, but then you were Shield Maidening, and you were gaining a bunch of life back in the later game, and then you would play Dr. Boom, and you would have Ragnaros, and you'd have Sylvanas, and you'd have Ysera. And Ysera would come down and just draw you a whole bunch of cards. And I really liked that. And I played that deck for months exclusively. But I never got Legend with it. At least not back then. Hit rank 2 at the peak, I think. And then I found love. And it's called Turn 2 Fel Reaver. Turn 2 Fel Reaver. It's like the my first girlfriend in high school sort of feeling of just like I remember fondly about this giant mechanical thing. And I remember hitting my opponent in the face with it. And I remember the game I got Legend. Coin, Innervate, 2 mana 3/2 Knife Juggler, Living Roots. And 3 turns later when I Savage Roared and killed my opponent, I remember thinking, this is really good. And I still get that feeling of winning really powerfully. It just is a lot faster. But then the next deck I got Legend with, 2 times in fact, was Imp Gang Boss Zoo. And Imp Gang Boss, love Imp Gang Boss. Implosion, I enjoyed it at the time. Upon reflection, I am upset that card ever existed. For a lot of reasons that we won't go into here because there's only so much time in the night. But that deck, and you look at the decks, the first 3 decks I got Legend with, after playing Control Warrior, I think, for 4 months straight, the first time I ever hit rank 1 was with super aggressive Divine Favor Paladin, and then Turn 2 Fel Reaver Druid, and then Imp Gang Bazoo twice. Are you noticing a pattern here?
Excuse me? I believe you said there was a card in there called a Divine Favor?
I'm not saying that I didn't use it. I'm saying if it were destroyed, the world would be better. Same with Implosion,
okay.
Honestly.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Because there were control decks, there were handlock decks, and I said, 3 mana draw 9. That seems good. I'm going to play that. Because the feeling that I hate when I was playing the control deck is I grind you out through carefully piloted play, and then they say 3 mana draw 9, and I say, well, I wish I had known that was coming. Anyway, again, neither here nor there. Point is, I was not that great at the game yet. I didn't know quite what I was doing yet. I didn't understand the meta at the same level that I do now, or even when I did, I wanted to play Control Warrior. Secret Paladin was around there. Bad match for Control Warrior. You did not want to be the Control Warrior in that matchup. I kept playing the same deck anyway. And then I discovered Aggro Druid. And then I played the aggressive decks that aligned with the way I was predisposed to playing, which is just go face. And I got Legend. And I worked on it. Now, I practiced and I played a lot. That was back before, I think I only had Golden Warrior as a golden class. The second golden class I got was Warlock. And I felt like, actually, because of my time with Warrior, that I knew better how to win those control matchups, right? I knew better how they functioned. But I was doing better with a deck where I wasn't making strategic errors, wasn't making sequential errors, in fact. I was doing better with a deck where I wasn't making sequential errors, execution errors, because I knew how aggro generally worked, right? It was a little bit more in my wheelhouse. It was a little bit more aligned with what I wanted to be doing, which is apply the pressure with the Flame Imp, understand how to position in a Ruby and Egg, Implosion for 4. That's pretty good. Wasn't skill-based, but was very good at the time. And just kind of aligning how the game progressed with how I knew how to play my cards, so I could focus more on the strategy of how the game unfolded and less on the mechanics. Because with Control, the mechanics and the strategy were foreign to me. With Aggro, the mechanics came naturally to me, so the strategy was the only thing I had to master. And once I locked that in, once I had gotten Aggro down, I started making it my quest after I had a few classes golded. Let me try something else and learn a different style and a different way of playing that I can use this knowledge and kind of get a little bit better outside my comfort zone because I've already built up that comfort zone high enough that I know what works in Hearthstone. Let me try it from the other side. Let me try it from a different angle. Let me see how I can take this knowledge that I have, this perspective, this comfort zone that I have, and translating it outside of that comfort zone once I've built up that base of strategy and can work back to the mechanics. So
yeah, this sounds strikingly similar to how I progressed as a player, and I don't want people to take away people's takeaway to be that I'm trying to say stick in a strategy and like never change. It's just if you're finding trouble kind of improving, or if you're a little lower on the ladder and you're finding yourself struggling to win games, maybe you should be sticking with the strategy to build up your fundamentals a little more. Or if you're like high legend, or like if you're in legend and you're trying to push for ranks and you understand all the different strategies, there's a lot to be said about sticking with what you're comfortable with. Like what I did this past season with even Shaman, I was bouncing around between a bunch of different strategies and I was like, okay, I know Shaman probably better than like a lot of these people that I'm going to be playing against, and I'm going to know my deck better than them. And so I think that's going to do me more good than jumping around between different strategies. And yeah, I just think there's a lot to be said for comfort. It's not the most important thing, but there's a lot to be said for it.
Well, so the best way to get better is to make less mistakes. And the best way to make less mistakes is to know when you're making mistakes. And the best way to know when you're making mistakes is to be aware of how things are supposed to go. Right? We're kind of going backwards. Patrick Chapin, who's a famed Magic player, has always said, tight technical play matters more than all other factors combined. And for most players, I think, the vast majority of players, I think that's accurate. Because most games are decided by who makes the fewest mistakes. But if you're learning the game, learning within a strategy that you naturally identify with is basically like trying to clean your house instead of trying to clean somebody else's. That's the metaphor I'm going to use here. If you walk into somebody else's house and they say, okay, clean it up, well, where does this go? Well, what should I do? Do you want me to make the bed? Do you want me to put this over there? Where do I hang these clothes? What setting do you put on your laundry? You don't know. But if you go into your own house, hopefully, you know what you want and how it's supposed to be cleaned. You know, oh, this thing needs to be washed with this other stuff, and the bed needs to be made this way, and I need to put this dish here. You're more comfortable, so you're more aware of what's missing or wrong or out of place. If you're a player that tends towards the aggressive, and you want to make a legend push, so you pick up Cube Warlock, it's going to be like trying to learn how to walk on the moon, right? It's going to be trying to learn Swahili. It's just so far away from what you're innately used to, from the skill set you've developed, that it's going to be hard to tell where you're making a mistake because you lack context. But if you're an aggressive player and switch from one aggressive deck to another aggressive deck, you're going to be more aware of how does aggro function usually, and then how does this deck function slightly differently, or where might I be missing things. Once you develop the ability to identify things that are missing, then I strongly recommend switching to a different strategy so you can experience that from the other side. Once you learn, when I play high main on 6 against Control Warrior, I win, and then you're the Control Warrior, when you come back and play, and you say, well, if they play high main on 6 and I have an empty board, I lose, what do you do on turn 5? You're going to do something a little bit different in that game, because you know, if I don't play this Elise on 5 to trade with the high main, I'm going to get hit for 6, or I'm going to clear it and I'm going to get hit for 4, and it's going to be really bad for me. You want to develop and cultivate contextual awareness to identify your own fundamental issues as a player and then correct them in an environment and perspective that you're used to before you move on to a new and different environment. And so we're not saying never switch. We're saying figure out what you need to do to get better before you try and learn completely outside of your comfort zone.
Essentially, what I feel like we're saying is if you're switching a lot and losing, and your goal is to win, then you should probably switch a lot less and just play it. Try to find something you're comfortable with, and use the information you gather from that to improve your play with other decks.
Yeah, and listen, there will be times I'll think back to a meta. There's one meta I can think of where aggro players played mid-range, mid-range player played mid-range, combo players played mid-range except maybe freeze mage. We call it the Karazhan meta. Mid-range shaman is a deck. You may have heard of it. You could play aggro shaman if you really wanted to. You should probably just play mid-range. And you can play whatever you want. But in that metagame, if you weren't playing Trogg and a Totem Golem, you didn't have Lightning Storms and Maelstrom Portals in your deck, and you did not have Thunder Bluff Valiant, you were setting yourself at an active disadvantage. And at that point, it is worse for you to play Face Hunter, even if you're a more aggressive player, than it would be for you to play mid-range Shaman despite being less familiar with it, because the power level of the deck is so much higher that you should be playing the best deck. And there will be best deck metas again in Hearthstone's history, in Hearthstone's future, but Hearthstone has proven, as a game, especially with the current developer team, they're going to fix those. The last deck like that was Even Paladin, with 4 mana Call to Arms. And that deck, at the end of its reign in Standard, had a 55% plus win rate. You know what you should do when there's a deck with a 55% win rate? Play that deck. If you are not playing that deck, you are doing yourself a disservice. If you don't know that deck, play it and learn. And the great thing about that meta is you'll play plenty of mirror matches, and then when you lose the mirror match, say, what did they do that I didn't? The context will be presented to you, and you need to learn it anyway, because it's just so far and away better than what else could be in the meta. It's worth it. And there will be other times when you go in the ladder and you want to be the aggro player, and there are some metas I can think of that are extremely controlling. I think actually the end of the Witchwood meta is one of the slower metas I can think of, where there were quite a few, before Giggling Inventor, there were still quite a few Odd Warriors that were out there. There were a lot of big spell mages, and aggressive decks really struggle to get a foothold. If you want to keep playing aggro decks, you can if you're getting the results with them, but that might be the time to try and flip things around and see, can I win as the control decks? What are they doing that's working, and why can I beat them? And you can use your perspective as the aggro player saying, I lose when they defile into a mountain giant. I lose when they Twilight Drake into Coin Dread Infernal into Sun Fury Protector. Okay, if that's what's beating me, what are they doing? What are they mulliganing for? How are they managing it? How do these games play out? And then use that information on the other side. But don't keep sticking with a strategy if it's not working. Just try and use your knowledge from that strategy to identify how can you adapt that to other strategies, or how can you identify which strategy is going to work for you in a more balanced meta like the one we're in now.
Yeah, my brain is mush from how much we've talked so far. So, I don't know. I guess sit and digest on what we talked about. Again, this is not going to be like the same for everybody. It's not going to be the best strategy for everyone, but for people who are looking to develop as players, for the less experienced of us, or people who are looking to kind of improve their short-term win rate for the more experienced players, I think this applies. And I don't know, I'm kind of just rambling because it is very late and we're pushing 2 hours. So somebody save me.
Let's go into coin concedes.
How long can this go on?
And
A long time. That's how long it can go on.
Yes,
Turns
and
out.
we'd like to say thanks to quite a few people Got Stefan L. Thanks for letting us use this cover as always. Check him out in the channel link in our show notes. Big thanks to Wicked for deck analysis and making Bottidictus a filthy priest player. Hearthstone for deck list. Liquipedia for tournament info. Hearthstone tournaments on YouTube for tournament VODs. Show notes for this week's episode are on our website at coincasey.com. You can support our show at patreon.com/coincasey. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.tv/coincaseypodcast. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coincasey.com. Right into our email at coincasey@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coincasey. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop, shop.coincasey.com. New shop at Dad Legend. You can buy our main shirt design. Definitely get that before Con Before the Storm and BlizzCon if you're going to be there. So you can show it off, and we'll give you a high five. Big thanks to our producers, Viriatus Tacos and Floral, and props to Into the Wild League. Taylor's playing. United Hearthstone League. I'm playing. And let's do some coin concede. Who's going to start? Bottidictus, you get to start.
Taylor's also crushing, by the way. Still just absolutely destroying that Wild League. But anyway, this week, my coin concede is to the guy at GameStop last night. They close at 9, but they had their release of Mega Man 11. Also some Assassin's Creed nonsense that other people were picking up. But I was there for Mega Man. I picked it up. I was about to leave, and I saw that it was a PS4 version, which normally would be I would be upset about, but then realized that when I pre-ordered the Mega Man, I had also bought a PS4 for my wife in that exchange. So the person ringing me up when I pre-ordered just assumed that I was getting Mega Man 11 for the PS4, but they exchanged it really quickly. He was very nice, and I got home and was able to play a bit of Mega Man before bed, which is an awesome game, and I love it.
Man, I forgot Mega Man was out.
Yeah, it's really good. If I was trying to, it's not a perfect analogy, but if you played the Mega Man X games on Super Nintendo, you know how you would get the power-ups, like in some of the stages where you could like dash or jump higher and do all these other things. It feels kind of like that, except you get it at the very start of the game. You don't have to go through all the minutia of like finding these power-ups. You just get this powerful ability at the start of the game, and it feels really, really good, even though I only have about an hour of playtime or something. Looking forward to playing more.
Yes. With all that extra time you have from Hearthstone, transitioning from a 40-hour-a-month game to a 10-hour-a-month game. Props to Hearthstone for supporting Mega Man.
I don't know. I'm enjoying this Xerix cloning gallery. I brought my Switch with me today and ended up playing a couple games of Hearthstone instead of Mega Man because I'm really enjoying that deck, but also wanted to get to rank 5.
It sounds like Bottidictus has found his fun.
And
Yes.
Priest.
Yeah, mind blasting people for 20 is a lot of fun.
So, who are your coin concedes to, Hat?
My coin concedes are to Brian Kibler for releasing an awesome video on his thoughts on In the Works, even though it's a little bit later than the other ones, but I think it was very well produced. Props to Apex Predator. Oh, yeah. Props to Apex Predator. He won a Tavern Hero qualifier. So, he's a Tavern Hero. He's our hero. He's been a member of the show's community forever. And coin concede to Appa. And that coin comes directly taken away from Google Drive. So I didn't know this. We use a shared Google Drive folder for the show files. And so we upload, multiple 100-megabyte files every week. And Appa said he clicked on Google Drive to the storage option in the bottom left of Google Drive, and it allows you to list all the files. And even if you remove a file from a shared folder, it's still in your drive. And Appa and I think, removed a combined 20 gigabytes of episode files today from our individual folders. So
yeah, so I think the free version of Google Drive comes with 15 gigabytes of storage, and I was approaching 13, 14-ish, and I was like, man, where are all these files coming from? So I went to upgrade storage, and I was like, I guess I might have to upgrade. But then I had an option. It was like, here, look at all your files from largest to smallest. And I was like, why do I have infinite coin concede episodes? These have all been deleted. It went all the way back to, I think, episode 67 just of episodes. So I deleted all those.
91 episodes ago? No, 89.
Yeah, so
89 was right the first time.
Yeah. So I deleted all those because I have them all saved on my computer, and it freed up like 10 gigs of space worth of episodes. I was like, oh my goodness.
Appa, also, I hate to break it to you, I'm not going to re-edit episodes from before I was on the podcast. You can probably delete those files if you want. You can get rid of them. You can keep them if you want. I'm not telling you what to do, but I will not ask you for those raw audio files again.
Sounds good.
I didn't the first time because I wasn't on the show.
So for my coin concedes, my first coin concede is to Keening Banshee because it's Keening Banshee. And then my actual one is to Taylor. Again, I think this is like the third week in a row, and I might be biased because she is my actual fiance, but I wanted to coin concede to her because she got a top 200 wild finish for last month. Miss, I'm not good enough to compete in tournaments, but I'm 5-0 into the Wild League and just casual top 200. And it was hilarious because we went to Wendy's and we were in the drive-through line, and she was, I think, at like 192 wild or something, just sitting, wondering if she was gonna just hold the top 200. So she went to queue up a game of Odd Paladin because that's what she was playing on ladder, and she hadn't lost a game with it yet. So she's like, okay, let's see if I can win another game to secure this top 200. And she accidentally queued up her meme Reno Casino all legendary Luna's Pocket Galaxy Mage that she was planning on bringing into the Wild League match this week. Let me say that again. Reno Casino all legendary Luna's Pocket Galaxy. And she queued up against Starliner Druid. And she beat it. She beat it by playing Rag and then Zola coin Rag and just started 16ing him in the face.
I'm gonna need a deck list because
Yeah, I'm
I
sure you'll get
opened a Golden Luna's Pocket Galaxy a couple weeks ago, so I'm gonna need a deck list.
Yeah, so she secured her top 200 wild finish by beating Starliner Druid with Reno Casino, Luna's Pocket Galaxy, all legendary mage, and that is fantastic.
Except for her opponent, who probably felt a certain kind of way about getting
Look,
Reno
they were
Mimo
playing
Casino.
Starliner Druid, so they deserved what they got.
We're not judging them for their deck choices. We just told players to pick a deck they're comfortable with and win with it. We just said super competitive, and now we're aligner shaming. We're Druid shaming.
That's
what we're doing?
Juicy Psych Melon shaming. Yes,
I'm
I'm just kidding. If you play Starliner Druid, that's more power to you. That
if we're going to
deck's
shame
really,
anyone,
really
let's shame Bottidictus for playing Priest this whole time and not telling him.
Whoa. Relax, okay? I'm just enjoying winning, which I haven't done since multiple months ago.
You're enjoying winning with a fun strategy that you enjoy. You wouldn't enjoy winning as much if it was like Token Druid or something, because it's just
exactly
boring.
It's just
But
like,
now you get to do what you enjoy doing. Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, Token Druid with Strong Shell Scavenger is actually super fun and really aggressive and just hit people in the face really fast. I do like Serenite Chain Gang, then next turn hit you for 8.
Yeah, I did a coaching session with it and had mediocre results, but it doesn't feel nearly as good as getting an extra Mind Blast off of a Lyra after you Shadow Word Pain your own Gilded Gargoyle while going off with extra Radiant Elementals.
I think Bottidictus just had a eureka moment this episode with what kind of player he truly is.
It's not a great eureka. It's like a,
No, it's not.
Damn it, I found it instead of just I found it. It's lots of curse words and yeah, that's exactly how I felt as soon as I realized I was a priest player.
Well,
oh well.
Where can people find you, Bottidictus, while you're busy regretting who you are as a person?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BottidicusHS. I have a Twitch. I haven't streamed in a while. I might stream, though, and you can follow it, twitch.tv/Bottidicus.
Sorry, had typing stuff in show notes, making me chuckle. So you can follow me on Twitter at appa_hs. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/OpAHS. I will probably be streaming this weekend, either ladder or the WESG qualifier or a Challenger Cup, whatever I'm doing that day. I'll probably stream this weekend. And you can also follow me on YouTube at, my channel name is called The Violet Teacher, and I plan on making some videos for that because I'm really enjoying Hearthstone right now and I want to create more content. And the podcast and Tempest Storm videos aren't quite doing it for me, so I want to make some of my own stuff. So that's where you can follow me on there.
And you can find me on twitter.com/ridiculoushat and Discord at ridiculoushat, where Hearthstone is discussed. I am also on a bit of a streaming hiatus, except for when I'm playing in United Hearthstone League. And I don't know when I'm playing Daniel. We'd schedule it for Sunday, but I realized I'm working Sunday, so I might reschedule that. But in the United Hearthstone League channel or on my own if there's not a caster, definitely casting that. Had a great time casting my match against... who did I play this week? Played someone cool. I'm gonna keep recording until I remember who I played. I'm gonna look at my calendar. I don't remember anything. It's not my calendar.
Welcome to Coin Concede, where we sift through calendars. Calendar Concede.
Oh, Daring Alkaline. Daring Alkaline's awesome. I played against Daring Alkaline. He's on the Daring Reporter. That guy. Love that guy. Played against him. Really strong opponent, and enjoyed my match tremendously. I did not get the Cube Clockwork Automaton Hunter to work all that well, but it was a super fun match that I really enjoyed. So
You did not bring Bird Druid. I am disappointed.
I didn't. I brought Mechathune Druid, and I did win with the Mechathune. I'm not going to apologize for that. And there's still another Druid week coming up. But I am playing Astral Tiger Druid. So we'll see. I have already committed to putting Scorpomatic in there.
There will be Muklas and Cairns in the match. So
Yes, they're guaranteed.
A+.
And that's our show this week. So
I get to say it. Keep calm and keen on. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory. You win. I can rest now. You win. For now.
Now, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death. You have triumphed. This time. This hunt is yours.